Okay, hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in this video, I wanted to talk about concatenating um, numbers and strings together. Okay, basically concatenating strings and numbers together. Okay, now I did mention this to some extent when I talked about concatenation in general. Now the goal of the concatenation video was just to give you an idea of concatenation and how it works, right? Okay, but then it got to a point I realized I was concatenating a number to a string, and it may seem confusing at that point. Although I explained it in that video, but I want to make a video just dedicated to that one, so that people can see how that works. Okay, how concatenating numbers to strings work. Okay, concatenating strings to strings is straightforward. Okay, so we'll just briefly do that. Okay. So we haven't talked about variables, but we know that we can create a variable of type integer, meaning a variable that can only store integers, and we can give it a name of, let's say, number, right? Or we can give it a name of, let's say, number of books. Now again, I'm using camel case here. We've seen camel case, okay, so we are getting used to it now. But we'll get into variables, and we'll talk about the details of how to declare them. I've mentioned that a couple of times. So just so you know, just as a reminder. But we know we can create a variable of, let's say, type integer. Okay, it can only store integers, and then we can give it a name called number of books, right? We can also initialize it. Remember, we said that we can give it a value and say number of books. Oops, it has to be the same as the variable. Remember we said that the variables are case sensitive. So this variable is if I change this to capital B, now these are two different variables, because this is a capital B and this is a small b. But if I change it into an uppercase B, then I'm dealing with the same thing here. So we can initialize it and give it the value and say number of books is equal to 6. Remember we mentioned that, right? And now let's use a system.out.print statement to try to concatenate some of a number and a string together. So I'm just going to say, first of all, we have a number, right? We have a number. And when I compile this and I run it, we know that it's going to display we have a number. Now, this is not the variable itself. This is just a string. It's in double quotations, all right? So it's going to display we have a number. Now, we talked about concatenation, and we said concatenation is just joining things together, right? Joining data together. It's just like a glue. So if I have another string and say, if I use a plus sign and I have another string and say space, well, let's just not have a space initially, and say the number is, and I have 3 dots, and I compile this. All I'm doing is I'm basically joining these two strings together. I'm just using the plus sign to glue them up together. Think of the plus sign as a glue. Okay, when you are joining two strings, okay, think of them as a glue. Just when you're joining two strings, think of them as just a glue, right? So when I compile this and I run it, we can see that they've been joined together exactly the way we specified. So this is the first string. We have a number, right? And then the second string, the number is, okay. Now it joins them exactly the same way. So if you want a space, you have to make sure you add a space either at the end of this or at the beginning of this, right? And then when I compile this, you can see that the space will also be reflected, because it's joining the first string, which is we have a number, all the way to here, and then it's joining into the second string with a space in front of it all the way to here, right? So this is joining two data, with the same, two data of the same type. But you can also concatenate a number to a string, right? In this case, we have a variable of type integer that holds the value 6. If I concatenate the first string, we have a number, okay, to the variable number of books. Well, first of all, let's just start with a plain number. Let's just start with a plain number of, let's say, 5. So if I do this and I say concatenate join or glue the number 5 to the string, what's going to happen is, because, okay, now a plus sign normally means you're adding stuff together, right? But because you cannot really add a number to a string, you cannot really do math with it and say, okay, this is something else. You can't, because you are of different data types. This is a string and this is an integer. You can't really do math with it, right? So in that case, now, well, I can use a print. I can use a print ln. Okay, let me just change it to print ln. It doesn't really make it. It doesn't really. We don't really see the effect here, but I normally use print ln, and we know the difference, right? In the previous videos, this, after printing whatever I told it to print, ends with a new line. Okay, it prints whatever you told it to print, and then it moves the position from where it's at to the next line, and anything that comes after it is displayed on that next line. Remember, we talked about that. And the print statements just displays whatever you tell it to display. It's going to keep the position from where it's at, and then it's not going to move it anywhere. Anything that comes after it will be displayed from that line going. Okay, that was just something just to refresh your memory, but then it's in the previous videos. Okay, so when we do this now, it's because you can't really add these together, and because with the print ln, everything that is displayed from it has to be converted to a string. What's going to happen is this 5 here is going to be converted to a string. Because we can't really do math with these. One is a string, one is a number. We can't really do any math with them, right? With the print ln function, whatever is going to be displayed by it has to be converted to a string. So because this can't really be added together, in terms of math, right? Or maybe I should say this, because they are of different data types. Okay, it's not going to be it's not going to be added in terms of math, right? So in that case, it's going to be just printed out the way it is. But with the print function, everything that is displayed from it has to be converted to a string. So this is already in a string, so that's fine. But this number, before it's displayed, has to be converted to a string. So it will automatically be converted to a string, and then this will just be like joining a string to a string. Although it's a number, before it's displayed, we won't see it, but then it'll be joined to this one, so we can see it right here. So when I compile this and I run it, we can see that we have a number 5. Now there's no space separating this one, so I can put a space here like that, and I'm joining this whole string, okay, to number 5. Now a space is included. When I compile this and I run it, we can see that there's a space here. Right, so we have a number 5. Okay, so we can also go ahead and concatenate another string and say full stop, and then 5 is cool. Okay, now this is a string. We are concatenating a string to a number, okay, and then a number to a string. Okay, again, it's going to be the same idea. Because 5 this 5 can be added to the string in terms of math, right? So in this case, this 5 will just be displayed, and before anything is displayed by the print ln function, it has to be converted to a string. We don't see it, but it will be converted to a string, so it can be displayed. If they can be added in terms of math, they'll just be displayed. So I'm going to compile this and then run it, so we can see that it's displaying. We have a number 5. 5 is cool. This is a number, and they are both numbers, but this is an integer and this is a string. Okay, now we can also use the contents of a variable. We talked about it. So number of books over here holds 6, so I'm going to say number of books, it's 6, right? And I'm going to say 6 here is cool. Compile this and run. The fact that we are using this doesn't mean anything. This is just a variable that holds an integer value. Okay, it holds an integer value. So 6 is cool. And if you surround this with double quotations, for example, if I put number of books in the double quotations, it becomes just a regular string. It doesn't become a variable anymore. It becomes just a regular string. So if I compile this, you can see that we have a number of books. Number of books is just a string. That's why it's displayed. But this is a variable. That's why it's displaying the content 6. If I put a space here, you can see it clearly. You can see it well. Oops. You can see it well here. So it displays just as a regular string, which is we have a number of books, right? And then it displays the content of this, which is 6, and then this 6 is just a string. 6 is cool. Okay, let's remove that. Go back to regular stuff. Okay. Now, if we are concatenating a number to a number, now let's talk about that. So if I concatenate a number to a number this way, Sorry about that beep. If I concatenate a number to a number this way and I say number of books, okay, I'm concatenating. You would think that you would concatenating would join, okay, or concatenation would join this number with something, right? You think that if I say number of books, well, first of all, let's start with regular numbers, right? If I say 6 plus 6, you think that this will join them and we'll read or will display 6, 6, right? But because both of them are numbers, they wouldn't be joined. They will be added up, right? And we'll get 12, okay? So now 12 will be stored here. But because the println function always prints, basically anything that is printed out from the println function has to be a string. It's first of all going to do the math, 6 plus 6, which is 12, and it will convert it to a string so that it can be displayed. Before the print function prints anything on the screen, whatever it's printing has to be converted to a string. So first of all, because these two are numbers, it's going to add them up. Because both of them are numbers, it's going to add them up. It's going to do the math if it can, okay? And then after it gets the results, that result is going to be converted to a string and then displayed. So now this is going to print out 12. It's not going to just join them together like 6, 6. It's not going to do that. It's going to add them up first because it can. It can. If it can, it will do it. If it can't, it won't do it. Now, if I said 6 plus this string, this, right? It can't really add them up. So it's just going to join these two together. First of all, convert the 6 to a string and join them together and display it. So we can see that when I compile this, we can see we get 6, and then it's just joined them because it can't really add them up. But as soon as I have a number, it can. Let's change it to, let's say, 9. It can. So it just adds them up first, and then the result is converted to a string and then displayed. Because everything that is printed out from the println function has to be a string. Okay. If I wanted to just, if I didn't want to add them up and I wanted to just display them as 6 and 9, I would have to first of all concatenate the string. Concatenate the number 6 to a string this way. With let's say a space. Let's say a space. Or let me just use hyphens or something, hyphens. So first of all, if I wanted to just join them together, I would say 6 concatenated to a hyphens, a set of hyphens, and then that set of hyphens concatenated to 9. So if I compile this and I run it, now you see that first of all it's going to, because it can't really add a 6 to the hyphens and it can't really add the hyphens to a 9, it can't do any math. So they are going to be displayed as they are. But the println behind the scenes, everything that is displayed has to be converted to a string. So they will be converted to a string and then displayed as they are because they can be added in terms of math. So they are displayed as they are. If I wanted to display 6, 9 closely together, I can delete these hyphens, right? And first of all have a space like this and then run it. So now they're going to be separated by a space because I'm concatenating a number to a space, which is a string, and then a space then to a 9. So it looks like this. But if I didn't want the space in between them, I could remove this space and I still have a string, but it's empty, right? I still have a string. This still works. Okay, this space is, this is still considered a string, but it's an empty string. It's going to be displayed, all right, but it's going to display nothing but it's going to be considered as a string. But because 6 can't be added to an empty string, okay, this empty string is so 6 is going to be joined with this empty string. In other words, it's going to be joined to nothing. It's a string, all right, but it's going to be joined to nothing, right? And this nothing is also going to be joined to 9 because they can't really be added up. So now when I compile this, 6 and 9 will be close together, like 69, right? And then it will be displayed. The 69 is going to be converted to this is going to be converted to a string. This is going to be converted to a string and then displayed. Okay, this is an empty string. We'll talk more about empty strings later on, but I just wanted to show you if you wanted to just join 6 and 9 without adding them, this is how you do it. It's just like having a space, okay, and displaying it with a space in between them. But this time around, it's still a string, all right, but it's an empty string. You are concatenating a 6 to a string, which is nothing, it has nothing in there. Or it's just like putting a period. If you put a period, you see that you have a period in between 6 and 9. Right? But if I remove it, then I'm concatenating it with a string, right? But it's an empty string. There's nothing in there. And I'm concatenating that same string, which is nothing, to the 9. So when I compile it, it's, because 6 can be added to this empty string in terms of math, and this can be added to 9 in terms of math. Okay, this empty string can be added to 9 in terms of 9. they'll be joined and displayed as they are. Okay, they'll be joined. Okay, so when you have so let me just so we can see the output here. Okay, but we'll talk more about empty strings, don't worry. So this is how you do, you work around it. So when you have two numbers with the plus sign, Java will first try to add them up. We'll first try to do the math. If it can, it's going to go ahead and do the math, get the answer, and convert that answer behind the scenes to a string so it can be displayed, because the print function always displays strings. So whatever has to be displayed is going to be converted to a string and displayed. So when I compile this and I run it, you can see we have 15. It first attempts to do the math first. And then if it can, it does the math and then converts the answer to a string. If it can't, if I try to do this with a string and it can't, right, then it can't really add them in terms of math, so it's going to join them. So when the plus sign is used with variable or things of different types, it just says, okay, I can't add you in terms of math. It will say, okay, I'm done. I'm tired, I can't add you up. This is impossible. So all it's going to do is, okay, it's going to just join you guys together and say, okay, I can't really add you in terms of math, I can't really process you, so I'm just sticking you guys together and converting you all to a string and displaying you. And that's what it's doing over here. Okay, it's saying I can't add you in terms of math, I'm just joining you together, converting you all to a string and displaying you. But when you have numbers like this, it just tries to do the math first. Okay, the same thing with something like this. Yeah, I didn't even show you something like this. Let me just show you something like this. When you think about this, first of all, it's going to go over here and starts this way. So 6 plus 7, it can do that, right? It can do that. So it's going to have a result. It's going to do the math, because it can do this math over here. It can. Okay, it can do this math. Well, first of all, let's see what's going to happen here. It can do this math. We can see over here that it did this math, and we had 13. But when we had 13, now it was 13 plus the string. Now, because it couldn't add 13 to the string, it said, okay, I can't add 13 to the string, so I'm just going to join 13 and the string together. Right? The same thing, we can also do something like this and have 2 plus 5. Now let's see what happens over here. Okay, so now let me just walk through what happens. It's good I mentioned this actually. So it starts from over here, right? It starts from left to right, right over here, and now it can do the 6 plus 7. So we have 13, right? And then it's now 13 plus the string. Now because it can add 13 plus the string, it says, okay, I'm just going to join you guys together, convert you all to a string and display. So it displays 13 and the string, right? So now you have 13 in the string here. Okay, we have 13 in the string here. Now it's still going ahead to process, right? It's still going ahead to process. So we have 13 and the string joined together over here. Now it's trying to add 2 to that string. It says, okay, I can't do it. So I'm just going to stick you guys together, or join you together, convert you all to a string and display you. So now we have that whole string here. And then now we had plus 5. It's trying to add 5 to that whole string, right? It can't. So it's saying, okay, because I can't add you in terms of math, I'm just going to go ahead and join you together, convert you all to a string, and display you all. And that's why I displayed this. Now it can be confusing, because think about it. So think about it from left to right. It starts from left to right and says, okay, can I add you up together? 6 plus 7, it can. So that's why we got 13. You would think, why didn't it add up this and say 7? You think that, but because we are actually using the order of operation, right? PEMDAS, right? Parentheses, exponential. Basically, well, that's math. I don't want to bring in math here. I think in programming, the order of operation is slightly different, or maybe almost the same, or I think almost the same. But think of it now as left to right, right? Think of it right now as left to right. It starts from left to right over here, tries to add 6 to 7, it can. So we get 13. And we have a number 13 here. It's trying to add 13 to a string, it can't. So it joins them together, converts the whole thing to a string, and displays it. So now we still have a string. It's adding 2 to a string, it can't. So it joins them together, converts the whole thing to a string, and displays it. And that's why we had 2 all the way here. Okay. And that's why I didn't add the 2 to a 5 in terms of math, because it's going from left to right. And now it's trying to add 5 to that whole string. It can't add 5 to a string, so it joins them together, converts the whole thing to a string, and displays it. Now, if you wanted the 2 and 5 to process, if you wanted 2 and 5 to be added together and not give you 2, 5 like this, if you wanted the 2 and 5 to be added this way, you can put parentheses around them. Okay, you can put parentheses around them this way, like that. Okay, so you're telling the program to, okay, before you join this whole thing to this one, add them up first. Okay, and let's compile this and run it. Look, and now we can see that because we put parentheses around them, we've given it higher precedence. We're saying, okay, parentheses first, before you join anything to this string, add them up first. Okay, and that's why it's working. But over here we are starting from left to right, so it sees this, and then it adds them up. So think of it that way. For now, just think of it as left to right, and because it started from left to right, it was able to add them up. But as soon as we got here without parentheses, it was trying to join strings to numbers and it couldn't. But if you wanted that to happen, you surround it with parentheses. Okay, so that's why we could now see that it's 7. But if we don't do that, we get 2, 5. Okay, if we don't do the parentheses, we have 2, 5. Compile it and then run it. So I hope this makes sense, and it's giving you an even better understanding of trying to concatenate different data types of, let's say, strings and numbers in a print statement. Now this is important stuff, because it can mess you up once you try to write programs and you want certain things displayed. You really want to have a good understanding of this, and then it will help you a lot. So I'm glad you understand this. If you don't understand this, go through it more and more and have an idea. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time with the next video. Okay? All right then. Bye-bye.